How's the cheese?
Fantastic. I know I can put it in there somewhere. Hey.
Pun, we don't need you to be cheesy right now.
Well, I don't know, but it's just that this cheese is damn good.
So these are quite literally the houseboats of the Amsterdam Canal. These houses originated because of a housing shortage in the city, and because of that, it was cheapest and easiest just to throw a makeshift house on floaters and put it on the river. Since then, they've become accepted pieces of property in the city. Each one of these houses pays property taxes, as well as they also pay for electricity, gas, and water. So it's the same as any other home, except it floats. It really gives Amsterdam quite an original look to it. It's very unique to see that when you're driving past on the bridges or just on a boat down the river and you just see these houses that are floating on the side of the road or canal.
If you look behind the houseboats along the canal, you see all the iconic Amsterdam houses. These are really unique because they're very narrow. The trick about this was when they were being built back in the day, they were taxed and charged more based on the width of the house and not the depth. So that's why you see these really long, narrow houses. In fact, they're so narrow sometimes that the stairways are really, really, really narrow and you can't get furniture up them. So each house has a furniture hook at the very top, and you actually load your furniture in and out of the house via the windows. So we came up to The Hague today for a little day trip, and we went to the Peace Palace, which has what in it?
The International Court of Justice, as well as a smaller court used for mediation that they have in there, which is way less well known than the International Court of Justice.
Arbitration's different than mediation.
No,
Yeah,
it's a court of mediation. It's a court of mediation. It's a court of mediation. They literally said those words. We also wanted to go into the library because according to the website, if you go up to the security guard at the main gates and ask for a pass and show a valid piece of ID, the Peace Palace was the location that the first International Peace Conference was held in 1899. And then later Andrew Carnegie funded the building of what is now the Peace Palace, and since then it's become an official spot of the UN that they use, which is why the International Court of Justice and the smaller court are both in that building. We also wanted to go into the library because according to the website, if you go up to the security guard at the main gates and ask for a pass and show a valid piece of ID, they'll give you a ticket for the day. But we tried that and he said that it's not a public library and there's no visitors allowed. So we found the I Amsterdam sign, which is pretty cool. Apparently there's two of them. I didn't know that until we saw one in the middle of Dam Square, and I could swear that wasn't where I'd seen pictures of it before. But we did find the other one. This is it, right here. It's outside the Rijksmuseum. I can't pronounce it.
Which is near the Van Gogh Museum, which is where we're about to Van Gogh.
Vondel Park is also down in this direction. We tried going to the Anne Frank house. We're going to try to go later again, but the lineup, like we were warned by everyone and by all the reviews, is huge.
But like, I didn't think it would be that long yet. Like I thought it would be just not, I thought it would get long later in the day.
It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's probably already a 3.5 hour wait. The lineup goes like 3-4 blocks.
They need a better way to accommodate people. Like, I know they're just trying to get people in and out as fast as possible, but it just doesn't seem like you get the experience you're supposed to be having because of that.
But we're going to try again later on because you can't come to Amsterdam and not see the Anne Frank house.
It's true.
So we're going to check this area out for a bit first and then head back up there. Well, In the Van Gogh Museum, there were 4 levels of paintings that included paintings from both Van Gogh's early life and the end of his life. He only painted for about 10 years before he died, and there's a lot of portraits since then. In his last 70 days of his life, he painted 75 portraits. It's funny because you can see how it progresses over time. In 1885, they were debatable on whether or not they were good. I mean, it's better than I could do for sure, but it wasn't the best I'd ever seen. And then by the end of it, though, 1890, I actually was really liking his style. It's just, he had really perfected it. In 1896, he went to France. That really shows in his 1897 from then on era painting. His style is very much improved. You can see differences. He's better with his colors. Also in the museum, there were walls of people that have inspired his style and such. So you could really see how he had developed it and where it had come from, the people he admired, and why he liked those styles. It was set up really well. It started with along with his self-portraits, they kind of had just his life timeline. On the second floor, it was just paintings by year. Third floor it had sketches, and it had more of his France era, more talk about that and his color blend and his materials used. And by the fourth floor, it was mainly the last years of his life in 1895. So a lot of it was when he was in the mental asylum that he signed himself up for after he cut off his own ear in a manic attack he had after he got into an argument with a fellow friend that he had staying at this place that he called the Yellow House, which is a place where he invited fellow artists to join him so they could share ideas and work off each other. And the guy that he got into a fight with was one of his really good friends and one of the people that he drew the most inspiration from. So after a fight with him, he cut off his own ear, famously, and checked himself into a mental asylum after that. So the fourth floor is really dedicated to all of that. And I really liked the stuff that he did in 1890. That was such a prime year for that kind of thing. His most famous portrait, Starry Nights, isn't there. It's in New York. There's a few that I like that aren't very famous, but Sunflowers is not his best. It's just very big for some reason. He also did 4 other paintings of sunflowers and deems himself the painter of sunflowers. He called himself that. Yet he only did 5 pictures of sunflowers, and they were mediocre.
Not egotistical at all.
Not egotistical at all. I will admit the way he did it was pretty cool, and the one that was displayed, he only used 3 tints of yellow painting, and it actually gave it kind of a cool effect, but it was just a still life, you know? But some of his other stuff was very good, and I really liked it. And plus, just the story behind his life and his inspiration, his existentialist tendencies, and his commitment to nature and raw emotion in his, and peasant life in his portraits was it was interesting to hear about that, because I didn't realize to what extent he actually had that type of inspiration.
So, time for us to leave Amsterdam.
I really liked B&B here.
Really cool being on a boat.
The boat was cool. The breakfast was fantastic. We gorged ourselves every morning.
Yep, gave us energy for the day, which was just, again, lots of walking around, and I liked going through the red light district. It was fun going back to the red light district in the evening and checking out the wares. It was an interesting experience, kind of just something you don't see every day naturally.
No, you don't see that anywhere else, actually. Not like that. They actually put the women in glass boxes that have doors on them, and that's how they do it. There was too many tourists for my liking.
Yeah.
Too many tourist traps for my liking.
Too busy.
It smelled a lot like Victoria, because there was a lot of weed going around.
Yeah, it's an interesting atmosphere to get used to. Just coffee shops are not coffee shops, but once you get over that, it's just a fun environment. Everyone's really laid back to the point where they walk slow, but it happens.
But that happens everywhere there's a lot of tourists. It's
True.
not being laid back.
It's more just like the tourists were too much. But walking along the canals was really cool. I liked how we got to take that canal boat tour that we just played.
The history behind Amsterdam is really interesting. I kind of get the feeling that it was always a very lively atmosphere, like a very vibrant community, I think. Oh, it's raining. Awesome.
Shocker.
Amsterdam, right? We did get a couple sunny days, though. There was one night where we were up on the top of the B&B where we had a nice little sunset view and a nice little dinner from this fantastic to-go market that was like decently priced, had really good food, and like that's where all the backpackers were going. The Anne Frank house was...
I'm glad we got to see it.
You have to do it when you go to
I
Amsterdam.
think, and also we went late. That's definitely the time to go. The lineup was super short. We passed in the morning and it was an insanely long lineup. Then when we came back a couple hours before it closed, it was only about a half hour, 35-minute lineup, which is better than what would have been like a 2-hour lineup earlier.
4 hour.
I'm glad we got to see it. I didn't quite have the emotional ride that a lot of people do. For me, that was more when I read the book that I got more out of it. But it was still interesting to walk through the house and be able to connect it to what I've read and actually like put a place and kind of imagine what she wrote about in her books actually happening.
It's weird thinking that was actually where she wrote the book. Like, you kind of imagine as like a simulation based on the book, so they design it in that way. But no, like it's weird wrapping your head around that this is a real person. This is exactly where she wrote that book and what she described in it. So that was I think that was one of the coolest things about it. But it was very good that we went in the afternoon. I think a lot of people recommend that you go in the morning, but I think that everyone kind of hears that, so everyone lines up super early, and then it dwindles by dinner time, so we didn't have to wait long in the end. But we got to see everything we wanted to in Amsterdam, which was really good. We had a good amount of time there.
We walked everywhere, didn't cycle. The cycle network, even though it's second in the world after Copenhagen, is just confusing as hell. Like, Copenhagen is really laid out. It makes sense and it feels safe. This biking seems sporadic and dangerous. Also, with all the tourists, there's more people that don't know what they're doing, and it was just something I wanted to stay away from as opposed to get in on that.
The signals and the sides of the path that you're supposed to be, or like where you're supposed to be riding, is not as clear as it is in Copenhagen. It's just very sporadic, like she said.
But overall, I would go back to visit. Too busy to want to live there, but it was an awesome time. I liked it.
I liked it too. So, off to Berlin.
Yeah, that'll be a good leg of the trip.